Hello and welcome to Star Citizen Sunday. This is a weekly show which covers all the news from Star Citizen from the week just past. I am your host Mac, so let's get on with it. This week we get a new concept tug ship, we hear more about what the audio team are doing, plus how they make ArcCorp feel more active and populated. So kicking off with Around the Verse, the first look into character performance. Now they're training all the current artists to ensure that all the assets that they create are performance friendly as they create them. This means that characters are performance friendly and bug free pretty much straight away rather than needing to be optimized later on. Now this is obviously great news. It may slow up the character creation process, but it's not like we've had delays in that area, and this will save other departments which fix bugs, QA testers, so they can work on other things and free up a lot more time. I wouldn't be surprised if they introduce this to other areas of development so that each asset that's created is more performance friendly, but definitely a good idea in my eyes. Maybe a little delay in the character pipeline as they're training and they're getting used to the system, but as I say, we're not really delayed in character assets. After that, they looked at the Argo SRV. Now this is the latest concept ship. It is an entry-level single-man search and recovery ship. It uses tractor beams to tow or tug disabled ships. It's quite a collaborative ship which will help to recover players and NPCs. They did say there's always going to be something to do, because if no players are needing assistance, they will have NPCs requiring it. It can be used to pull cargo as well, because the tractor beam has a huge radius of flexibility to allow them to maneuver the arms all over the place. It also has a large power plant to cater for the tractor functionality. Now they did say that a single SRV ship will have the ability to maybe pull around the size of a cutlass up to potentially a constellation. You can use more than one SRV to move bigger ships or items, and potentially you pick up multiple ships with one if the ships are smaller. But it sounds to me like the SRV's tractor beam will have a default mass amount that it can pull, so it'll be based on mass. This will likely vary depending on the additional mass of the ship if it's carrying cargo. Also, the planetary gravity or atmosphere could affect it, and even go as far as maybe the components level of wear and degradation. So if the SRV's components are not at 100% optimal running, maybe the amount of mass it can pull will decrease. I do like the look of the ship. It does look a little too much like a vulture and kind of looks Drake-ish to me rather than Argo. But I'm glad that they're expanding the Argo range. They did want to expand this range and they've got a wide array of potential other ships available to choose from as well, so we may see some more coming down the line. But I will have a separate video for the Argo, and we will obviously have to wait for the Q&A, as I'm sure there's a lot of questions needing answers, specifically around trolling. So we'll see what they say about that before I do make the video. Also, for Valentine's Day, they had the Hornet F7CM Heartseeker, which is a really nice loadout for the Hornet compared to the base Hornet, and it has a new skin as well. But to finish off with in ATV, we looked into ArcCorp and its traffic sort of visuals for city streets. So it's early stages, still a long way to go, but very simple textures, and seeing how it looks in game while they develop it. This adds a little more movement and interest to the visuals as you're flying around the planet. Traffic will be seen while in atmosphere, not outside of atmosphere. It's kind of a small scale effect which helps sell the city. Now personally, I love how it looks, and it does look pretty cool, but knowing it's faked is kind of playing on my mind. I know if they were to do it properly and have physical assets flying around on the streets, it would be way too big a performance hit. But I just don't like the fact they're faking it. They never fake it, and that's what's sort of getting to me. I'm sure I'll get used to it over time. But it does look quite cool. It'll be nice to see it as it develops further on and they get it a little more cleaner. But I'm excited to see ArcCorp. It is definitely coming along. Hopefully 3.5 we get to see it. Anyway, that was ATV, guys. Let's move on. So for Reverse the Verse this week, we had the sound team from Foundry 42 in the UK in, answering our questions from the Spectrum and live chat. First question was, will we get sonic boom sounds from planet surfaces? Now they said they could build this into the current pass-by system that's already there, but they would just require some time and effort to figure it out. But with each planet and moon, depending on its atmosphere, its temperature and so on and so forth, these would vary. So it's not just a simple case of putting in a boom, because if it's traveling around the planet, it's constantly booming. So they need to do it more as a pass-by if someone is in a certain location. Next question is, are you planning to introduce the sound of small items hitting the ship hull, like micrometeorites flying through an asteroid field? And they say they have actually developed a system for this kind of sounds, So coming into contact with particles, it also has part to do with weather as well. But ship debris, asteroid fields, yes, they have a system for it, and we should hear that soon, hopefully. Next question is, will we be able to change the ship AI voice? So taking maybe the Drake ship announcer and replacing it with Anvil or Aegis or so on and so forth. Now, they said that each brand does have its own announcer. For the future, they could have variations, but there's nothing in the work just yet. It could be an extra component maybe, but until they get it's not for them to decide, basically. It's up to people like Chris Roberts to say yes or no. But I kind of like that idea. I don't think we should take a different manufacturer's voice and bring it over. I think it should be a case of upgrading it to maybe a male, a female, different huskiness or whatever, maybe having different options like what they have with the voice attacks. That would be quite nice. Next question. With the idea that the ship recreates the external sounds to aid in situational awareness, as the ship gets damaged, would it ever be the case that this system could fail and you'll find yourself in complete silence? Now, if you don't know, the ship replicates the sounds on the outside to sort of give you better situational awareness. That's their way of getting around making it sound cool rather than just being realistic with no sound whatsoever. Now, they say they are currently fleshing out an in-law sound simulator component module. This component propagates the sound for you, so maybe your helmet and suit may have a similar component which does the same thing, but with maybe less of a distance to it. But in atmosphere, this component will also work, but it might be better just to take your helmet off so that you can hear the natural sounds. Now, with it being a physical component, this means that it can be targeted, it can be destroyed, in turn, meaning that if you fly around without any audio, all you'll hear is the sound of your ship internally, which they said would leave a real cinematic feeling. And I think that's so cool, being able to decide whether you have this component on or off. Obviously, if you turn it off, your situational awareness will be lesser, but if it starts getting damage, that cinematic immersive feeling of being in your ship and hearing nothing on the outside would be actually really, really cool. So I'm glad that they're making that a physical component that can be upgraded, maybe extending the range at which you hear or focus hearing, I don't know. But that's really cool to hear that. Next question, will ship sounds be tied to the wear and degradation system, so older ships make more noise or they rattle more? Now, they say they don't have a way to do this yet, but they like the idea of it and will investigate to see if they could. Next question after that was to do with integrating maybe Dolby Atmos into the game. Now, they have been developing a lot of surround sound to making use of the 5.1, 7.1, so if you do have headphones, the flight model sound will be a lot better. But they haven't got any plans for Dolby Atmos. I guess it's a bit like having VR. It only affects a small, like the minority amount of people, so there's no point in investing time into it just yet. But who knows for the future, and as sound develops as time goes on, a couple of years from now, Squadron 42 being released, it might be the standard. You never know. Anyway, next question is, are there any thoughts on adding voice changes? Now, they said it would be cool and relatively easy to do, so maybe one day, but if you're using VoIP and you have a voice changer at home, it would play through the VoIP as well, so you could do it yourself. Will there be different sounding quantum drives for each ship? Now, they said that they are planning to go back to the quantum travel sounds and delve further into sound, so there will be a little more diversity, but they've not really mentioned about making each ship different. With weather effects, will we be able to hear raindrops hitting the cockpit? And they say, yes, you will, definitely. It'll just need a little more thought and development to get a good and not expensive performance-wise system working on that. Next question is, will reverb ever be a thing, for example, in caves? And they say yes, but again, it needs a bit more work, so that should be coming. They just need to explore the methods of how to create that. Someone asked about the comms over a greater distance. Now, will there be a delay? Will it need amplification? That sort of stuff. Now, they say delays, for example, are possible, but the difference is, would they really want that in game? Real-time comms delaying would probably be quite frustrating, and it's basically balancing this real and fun aspect. Instead, they said they could add other audio sounds like static or dropouts if you're coming over like massive distances. But the idea of it taking ages and having that a 3-second, 4-second, 5-second delay would probably be really frustrating. You'd be talking over each other, and yeah, it's not a good idea. Next question is, are you considered setting game audio elements independently, so in the settings for the game? And they say yes, they have looked into this and sort of do want to give us more options, but they don't want to make it possible to kill, say, the ambient sounds and then amp up the Foley sounds like footsteps. so you can hear people creeping up on you because you can't hear the rest of the universe making noises. So they will probably have further setting availabilities, but it's not going to be to a massive level of degree because they don't want people to abuse that system. Next question is, will components sound different as they become damaged? And they say yes, part of the new audio system for the new flight model will have this, but they're not sure if it'll be the first release. Now, I'm not sure if they're specifically just talking about thrusters, because they do sound different as they get damaged. I think what the question really referred to was components inside a ship sounding different as they're wearing away. That, I don't know, but yeah, the thrusters will sound different. I hope the components have a bit of a different sound to them as well, maybe sparking, making those sort of noises. Have they worked on any creature sounds? Now, they say not specifically, but they are working on boids, which are simple fauna for maybe the in-game crowd system, so say a flock of birds flying away, but nothing specifically for an individual creature, just more for ambient background sounds. Someone asked if they've been working on any water sounds or sound effects, and they say they haven't yet, but they know this will be required soon, and they'll just have a massive list of Foley sounds for water, and then they'll set to creating them. Obviously, we'll need this for when the player swim comes in. I think that's 3.7, is it? Someone asked, will we ever be able to load our own music into the game? Now, if you don't remember, or if you wasn't around early days, we got this new hangar feature, which was a jukebox, basically, and you could put in your own music into your file on your computer and play that into your hangar. Now, that was obviously client-side, so only you would hear that. The idea is if they make it server-wide so you can play your own music across the server, there would be problem with copyrights. That won't be allowed, so I do expect them to have actual in-game bands, because we know that the bands on the t-shirts that you can buy at Levski, so I wouldn't be surprised if they do eventually employ someone to make music. There's a lot of people in the community that can make music, myself included. I will be writing music for the game, and hopefully putting that into the game so that when we do have things like radio stations, that would be very cool. But sort of leading on to that question is the idea of musical instruments in game. And we know the Phoenix has a piano, and the plan is to expand it to a potentially sit down and actually play keys to some degree. Somehow they'll interlink it to the keyboard potentially. But we have seen Star Citizen rock bands, so I wouldn't be surprised if they start with the keyboard and then expand that to other instruments. And as much as it is very unnecessary, especially early on, I'm hoping later down the line, like years down the line, when the game is practically finished, they will introduce this and we'll be able to create music in-game using in-game instruments. That would be most exciting. Anyway, second to last question is to do with a PA system inside ships, kind of a ship-wide tannoy, and they say they are already actively working on it and have a good system in place using PA emitters placed dynamically on your ships. But the thing they're trying to do now is to manage the system, and they cannot isolate the sound, so you cannot just sort of say from the cockpit, press a button and contact the engineering yet, and then vice versa. They need to figure that out yet, but they're coming along with it, and it sounds very cool, and I cannot wait to get a ship system, PA system inside that you can contact specific rooms, specific areas. That will really add to the immersion and just make it feel like you're on a proper ship. Anyway, last question is there going to be in-ship button sound cues? So if you're clicking or pressing buttons in the ship, will you hear clicks, beeps, and so forth? And they say they have it on the Gladius, and it will likely come to the other ships as well, but they want all ship animations to have sounds associated with them. So yes, they're working on it now. It's just a big job, I guess. Anyway, to finish off with, they said the new flight model captures the feeling of weight and the afterburner or acceleration. They say that this big effect uses a lot of power, so they want you to sort of portray that with the sound of the ships. That should be coming with the new flight model. Not potentially every ship. We know the Gladius is going to have it in most likely the smaller ships that affect most people. But also the sound of distant weapon fire is challenging at the moment on the planets, so FPS fire. They are still working on it and getting it right, but there is so much variation to sounds and landscapes, so it's going to take a little time to work on. But they are currently planning to get all the sounds of FPS weapons sounding appropriate and accurate depending on the environment you're in, and the source of the sound and where you are as well. Anyway, that was the RTV. It's a shame we didn't hear more on sounds, like we didn't actually physically hear any, but I am very excited for sounds in ships. It really helps build the immersion and sell the game to people. At the moment, it's not really done right. It does sound inconsistent in a lot of places, and that really breaks the immersion for me. But the PA system's very exciting. I cannot wait to hear that. Anyway, let me know your thoughts, guys. Let's move on. So also this week, we had a new portfolio post highlighting a Jan endurance race. It is great to hear them expanding on the Murray Cup and other racing competitions. I'm sure all the racers out there will be very interested in learning more about that. And for Valentine's Day, as mentioned in ATV, the Heartseeker variant Hornet was available, along with two other vehicles, the Cyclone RC and the Origin 85X. So that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a video. Hit that thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and share the video with all your friends. If you like what I do and want to help me make it better, follow the link below to my Patreon page to learn more.